Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to the panel for being here. And as I understand it, Mr. Chairman, you have a document from our colleague, Representative Buddy Carter, to submit to the record on this issue. So I'll leave that to you. The United States spends more on health care as a percentage of our economy than any other developed nation, and CBO projects that spending will continue to grow. A recent NFIB survey showed that while employers by and large believe offering health benefits is important, 98% of small businesses are concerned that health care costs will become unsustainable within the next 5 to 10 years, so if they aren't already. So I thank the committee for holding this bipartisan hearing today on what the federal government can do about the high cost of health care. Mr. Baker and Mr. Scott, many employers say they are not able to obtain accurate cost and pricing information, despite laws which mandate that third-party entities provide this information to plan sponsors. Many PBMs say that employers can receive cost and quality information at any time through an audit. What's the disconnect? Mr. Scott first, and I'll go to Mr. Baker.
Thank you for choosing one to go first, so we didn't just sit here for 5 minutes. Thank you for the question. And I would start by saying at PCMA, all PBMs, all pharmacy benefit companies are welcome at our table, as long as there's alignment around the mission of preserving the free market and the approach that doesn't have government dictating terms or asking Congress to come in and prefer one business model over another. We have a fairly simple set of principles where we're not here to advocate for one company to get a favorable approach over another. One thing that is consistent across our members is that they are hired by employers who choose to use them under no obligation, and that they want those employers to have all the information that they need to make informed choices about how to design their benefit so that they can best serve the patients that they represent. All of that is built into the request for proposal or RFP process, and I still haven't fully understood where the RFP process may be failing some employers who are expressing that sentiment to you, Congressman, because that is how PBMs compete. When they put in those RFPs, the kind of information that a given employer may need. And if there's more work to be done in that space to make sure the client is informed, we'd be happy to work with the committee on that.
Mr. Baker?
Yes, thank you for your question. And I think you're spot on. In general, we consistently work with jumbo self-funded employers who do not have access to their data. I do not know of one employer who knows at the claim level how much they're getting back in rebates from the pharmaceutical manufacturers. So while I do appreciate the comments of my esteemed colleague Scott, I do not agree that there is a competitive marketplace that is working today. I think the status quo has existed for the last 15 or 20 years. I think that consultants and PBMs are focused on how they continue to drive profit at the detriment of the American public, and that data that you're asking for, we agree, should be present to all self-funded employers, and it is not today.
Okay. Thank you. Dr. Sakdev, would you care to comment as well, since you mentioned in your written testimony that employers have trouble accessing their own price and quality data? And then secondly, how are third-party entities circumventing current data sharing requirements?
Thank you so much for the question. I would concur with Mr. Baker that none of our employers have seen any pharmaceutical claims data at the drug level. When they get rebate information, they get it in aggregate. So that's not helpful to the employer because then they can't shop for it. They are told, if you want to change the formulary, and this might be a little in the weeds here, but if you want to change the formulary, then you're going to, that might impact the rebates that we give you. So they might have, let's say, 500 drugs that they're covering, maybe more, and we would want to see what the rebates are at the drug level. We don't get that level of information at the drug level. No employer I know gets that level of information from the largest PBMs. Regarding your question about audits, the audits are, the language in these contracts are confusing, and they put a lot of restrictions on the audit. So yes, you can do an audit, but they might, and it can vary depending on the contract, but they might restrict audits. So the audits need to be unfettered access. If the employer has fiduciary responsibility to do what's in the best interest of the plan, they should be able to audit their own claims data all day long as many times as they want. But they have restrictions on who the auditor can be, how many times per year they can do an audit. Maybe it's just once a year or maybe twice a year. How far back they can even look at their claims data, maybe only 1 year back, so they can't compare data over time. What drug classes they can even look at, et cetera, et cetera. There's just all these restrictions.
Well, I thank you all for your answers. I have further questions I'll submit for the record, and I yield back.